Now, welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Or's Lightning Takes. And let's get to the news.
This was brought up in our Discord. Someone wanted to kind of hear your take and hear us talk about the conversation that Diego Luna and Hayden Christensen had. There's a Vanity Fair article where there was an actor-on-actor interview. But it's cool because these two have never met, even though they've been in the Star Wars galaxy together in a way. Hayden Christensen's 42. He came back last year as Anakin and Vader in Obi-Wan Kenobi. And of course, Diego Luna is Andor in Andor and Rogue One.
It's so weird that Luna's like 43 and Anakin's like 42, or Hayden's like... I feel like Hayden should be young forever, and I don't know why. It always kind of doesn't compute when I realize he's just a few years younger than I am.
Well, kicking it off, Diego Luna was kind of asking Hayden about how it felt when he did Star Wars. Did he like Star Wars when he was... Yeah. And Hayden said, yeah, big time. He loved Star Wars. When the audition came around, it was exciting. He just felt it was unattainable. He said he met George Lucas. It was thrilling. He auditioned with Natalie Portman. It was a long process. He never thought it would go his way, so he was just having a good time doing the audition. Then when he got the phone call to play the part, it was life-changing.
He had no idea how life-changing it was going to be.
No, I'm sure.
You have no clue.
And Diego Luna asked him if he had done acting prior.
Hey, he's in this show called, ironically enough, Higher Ground, which as soon as he was announced, I watched. And it's like these teens who are like addicted to drugs and they get sent to this camp. It's actually not the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Christensen, of course, said yes. He started acting when he was young. He developed his passion for it by studying theater in elementary school. He went to a performing arts high school, focusing on dramatic studies. Luna was like, oh, was this a shock then, going from theater to Star Wars? They're a lot more technologically advanced, one could say.
Could say that, yeah. You're on blue screens all the time.
But Christensen there said there was also a similarity there because of the blue and green screens.
Yeah, I guess, in a way.
There's a lot that's left to the imagination.
Imagine.
Yeah. That there's not necessarily always real stimuli there to react to. So it wasn't too much of a leap. And, well, he didn't have a lot of experience, but he just did what he did. Moving on, they kind of started talking about Andor, where Christensen's like, you know what, he loved Andor. He loved how it was darker, more grounded. He said it was very important for Star Wars. He said he loves Diego Luna's performance. There's so much subtlety and nuance to it that you can't always get in stories like these. He says, well, how was that for you?
Very smart man, Hayden there. Loving Andor.
Of course. You don't love Andor. You're not as smart as Hayden Christensen. Luna said, thank you. It was something that we reminded ourselves of every day on Rogue One and on Andor. We took it even further. The idea you have to forget this is Star Wars. Tony Gilroy was specific. Every time you had to explain too long what you wanted to do, he'd be like, there's no room for that. It has to be simple. It has to be easy. It has to be real. It was a constant reminder every day. If it started to feel imposed or weird or from a galaxy far, far away, then we were doing the wrong thing. That's an interesting way to look at it because, if it's getting weirdly complicated because you're trying to make it Star Wars, stop. Just do it how you would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hesitant in that.
Well, you want it to feel like Star Wars, too. I think Andor actually does a good job of incorporating elements in the background and just little things said here and there that do make it feel like Star Wars.
Without
a lot of people,
going out of the way to go, boom, it's Star Wars.
Like I've said before, Andor is it feels like the bare minimum to make something feel like Star Wars. And then you go something like Mandalorian where it feels like they're kind of go maximum Star Wars without going over the limit and making it feel too much like Star Wars, if that makes any sense at all.
It does. And then Christensen commented, of course, that Andor is also successful. It's a great origin story for the beginning of the rebellion, getting to see the arc of, Diego Luna's character and how he starts off at a place where he doesn't really want anything to do with any of this. He wants to keep to himself, but his destiny is calling. And Luna says, I think it's because you know what he's capable of. So the interesting journey is how far can we start from that? How lost can he be? It's a show about his flaws, that contradiction that makes us real. We're not always the best versions of ourselves. It was nice to find him in the worst version of Cassian possible.
Yeah, that's what's interesting. It's all flawed characters. We're all flawed. None of us are perfect.
Right.
And we relate better to those flaws than we do the perfections.
Absolutely, because then when you see them overcome a flaw,
it's
you
exciting.
realize,
you
what?
Root for
if
them.
they have that flaw and they can do it, so can I.
It's the same reason in sporting events. If you're kind of going to something neutral, you root for the underdog. You want that story. You want that story of overcoming odds that seem impossible and coming out the other side the victor.
And Diego Luna asked, when you decided to come back for the Obi-Wan series, what was behind that decision. Hayden said,
Money.
just the nature of getting the invitation, Star Wars holds a very special place in my heart. I enjoyed getting to go back to being a fan again and just watching these stories like everyone does. But there was a part of me that missed it too. So when I got the call, it was a very easy decision. The fact that the Obi-Wan show with Ewan McGregor, who's a good friend of mine, and I get to swing a lightsaber with him again, it's a thrilling invitation. The director, Deborah Chow, is so articulate about what Star Wars is. She understands these characters so well, so I just felt like I was in good hands with her, and I was excited to get to do more with the character. Well, they didn't mess up Vader.
Not really, no.
Vader was Vader.
Vader was, yeah, I guess, for the most part.
So she knew his character pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure she knew the story pretty well.
Well, I'm not so sure if it was the top priority to make things flow into A New Hope perfectly, but I'll give her and Joby Harold, the writer, they got Vader pretty well. Pretty well.
Speaking on Darth Vader, Christensen kind of went on to talk about, the creation of his character and stuff. He said, George Lucas subverted our expectations and understanding of this character when he went back to Episode 1 and introduced him as this very sweet young kid who just had a lot of promise and potential. He mapped out a very compelling character arc that was hopefully somewhat sympathetic. I think we understood what Anakin was going through and why he was making some choices that perhaps weren't the best and the circumstances surrounding his life. So it was a very understandable fall to the dark side, but it humanized him and made him a real person and almost somewhat of a pathetic person in a lot of ways. And you feel for Darth Vader now in a different way too, because it's this man trapped in this life perhaps he didn't really want.
Oh, he didn't want to be Darth Vader. Well, he didn't want to be in the suit anyway.
No.
Yeah. Probably would have been my first. Everybody makes fun of that, but I probably would have done the same thing. Like, no, not the suit.
Not the suit. Luna kind of agrees with him. He says, yeah, I like that. I connect with what Tony Gilroy did in Andor, the idea of having to tell a story backwards. We have an opportunity to make sure this character comes from a past that you would never imagine.
Yeah.
Which is true for both of their characters, I guess,
I don't know that I ever really thought much about where Cassian came from until we actually just started. Even after hearing it, I was like, whatever. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, they've done a great job with Andor, and I think Lucas did a great job with Anakin's story. He does.
Absolutely.
He does feel like a pathetic character.
He does. But it's so sad.
Yet at the same time, it doesn't ruin the terrifying nature of Darth Vader. I think that's where he really succeeded. Like, this story that he was this little boy who was basically altruistic, a little ambitious, but altruistic, and kind of becomes this teenager who, gets conflicted and falls, and it's really a sad and pathetic story in a lot of ways, but it still doesn't take away from that, what Darth Vader is and who he is. So that's one of the things I love about the prequels. It doesn't ruin Darth Vader. It actually does, make him a better character.
Then Hayden asked him, so after you finished Rogue One, did you get to keep any souvenirs? Usually everything goes into lockdown and they send it to a museum somewhere. And Diego Luna said, I got to keep the jacket of the character.
Nice.
I really worked for that. I made jokes about it since day one. I was like, I just got this job because this jacket fits me. Clearly it's all about the jacket. And Christensen's like, yeah, it's a pretty good jacket. And Luna responded, and then the jacket had to be worn in Jordan in 45 degrees Celsius.
Ooh.
I mean, it was impossible. I was sweating. But I'm sure you got a lot of the sweat with the outfit. And Christensen's like, with the Darth Vader outfit? Yeah, it's a hot costume.
Is that a pun?
It is hot. What?
Your obsession with Vader.
What's not to obsess over? So many interests.
The dark side.
And then Luna had an interesting question. He was asking, how do you guys do that stuff with the lightsaber, that is? Because obviously his character doesn't get a lightsaber. So Hayden's like, the lightsaber stuff, it's a lot of training. You learned it kind of like a choreographed dance and where your feet are going to go. Luna's like, but do you actually have a stick that becomes a lightsaber? Christensen's like, oh yeah. Once we know the choreography, then we're having a proper go at each other. Back when we were doing the prequels, the lightsabers were made of some type of metal alloy, and after each take, they'd be all warped and bent. We're hitting pretty hard. And you missed every now and then, too, and you'd get hit on the knuckles or something. That always left a mark. But I mean, getting to swing a lightsaber is pretty awesome. I got to keep a couple of them. One from the prequels, and then I got to keep 2 lightsabers from the Obi-Wan show. One Darth Vader and one Anakin, because they're a little bit different. And he's like, wow, that's cool.
He's jealous.
Yeah. Says when we were shooting the first week or two of Rogue One, they gave us an amazing gift. these designs of the helmets of stormtroopers. I'm not going to say who, but an hour later, that was all over social media. That was the last gift we got in the show.
There you go. It ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, and the last fun thing, little quote snippet, was when Hayden said that as soon as he finished watching Andor, he had to put on Rogue One again and get back into that. He says, but man, I want to say congrats on everything you've done in Star Wars and your career in general. I think Andor is such an exciting character, and what you've brought to it is, I think, really special. It's just really nice to get to be here with you and chat about it. What a nice little Star Wars tete-a-tete.
I'm waiting to watch Rogue One again until after I see season 2 of Andor.
I know, it'd be like, you'll finish watching the finale episode, and you'll be like, I want to watch Rogue One!
Going right into it.
Well, it is Monday, so we're going to quickly go through our new this week in Star Wars, because there's not much new this week in Star Wars. Tuesday, the Super Mario Brothers comes to Blu-ray. Hey, I sometimes give out this information because it's fun.
We haven't seen it yet. Probably see it on Tuesday.
Maybe.
Did you
No.
pre-order? You didn't. I thought you might.
Well, I didn't because you don't always input stuff, and I don't know.
Usually you just
Wednesday,
pre-order stuff. Don't ask any questions.
Wednesday
it just shows up.
For comics, we have Vader number 35 and Sana Staros 5.
Yep.
Yeah. Thursday, prelude to the Ahsoka series is coming to this channel, Sabine. And don't worry, it is coming for sure this week because we already recorded it.
But not edited, so anything could go wrong yet between now
Don't
and then.
even. We've got days to finish that. So, yep, Sabine Wren coming this Thursday. If you don't know about the character, you want a little refresher, we got you covered.
Yeah. And,
of course, on Thursday as well, 8 p.m. Central Time is the voice chat in the Discord where we'll be talking about stuff. Lots and lots of stuff.
Some Star Wars, some other stuff too, probably.
Yeah. Bring your conversation hats.
Yeah.
We'll be in voice chat, so we won't be able to see it. Sorry.
All right, well, that is going to be all we got for you this time. So now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell us what you think of any and all of today's news. And let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.